Just keep breathing and breathing and breathing and breathing. I know I keep on breathing. Just keep breathing and breathing and breathing and breathing. Yeah, yeah. I know I keep on breathing. Oh yeah. Huma, huma, yeah. Huma, huma, yeah. Huma, huma, yeah, my yeah. Huma, huma, yeah. Huma, huma, yeah. Huma, huma, yeah. Hey guys, so I just received this in the mail this morning. I'm so excited. This is the Bperfect Carnival XL Pro palette by Stacey Marie. This is Stacey Marie's second palette that she's done, but this is definitely, I didn't think it could get any better, and it did. It's got everything in it, and it's only £42 for the quality of eyeshadow that you get. It's so worth it. It's so worth it. So I highly recommend that you get your hands on this. I did pre-order this, and that is why I've got mine early. I'm not sure if it'll be sold out, but definitely have a look on the website. I will link it down below. So I wanted to have a proper play around with colours. I wanted to create a look which I have not done before, so something that's very different for me, and I was looking at the neon greens because we all know that I'm not comfortable with green eyeshadow. So I was looking on Stacey Marie's Instagram, and I saw this look which is absolutely gorgeous. I'm not going to 100% recreate this, but I'm going to create something inspired by this. So let's get started. To prime my eyelids, I'm taking the Plouise base in Rumour. I remember when I used to talk about this and think that it was nothing special, and now I'm obsessed with it and it's the only thing I use. I always used to use the Urban Decay Primer Potion in Eden, but I'm finding that it's just not doing it for me anymore. And I do find that eyeshadows are a lot more vibrant on this base, and I just really like the texture of it. So I'm just going to apply this using this kind of like, almost say, a flat fluffy brush. And the good thing about this is that you can literally pat it and set it into place how you want it. Yeah, the brush is such a good size that you can cover the entire eyelid very quickly. When applying your base, always make sure that you get around to the inner corner, and I bring my base down a little bit, because you can find sometimes that it's not as neat when you start like cleaning up with foundation. You don't want to miss any skin. So because we're doing a cut crease, I always start off with the darkest shade in the crease first, and then build it up and blend it to be slightly lighter rather than going in with like a transition shade and then getting darker. You just get better pigment. So the first shade I'm going in with is Nude, and I'm going to take that on my Morphe M56 brush. So this brush is pretty good to cut the crease with because it's like flat and it's fluffy, so you can blend it out while creating the shape of your cut crease. So I do like a little press and wiggle. You don't need to be too neat. It doesn't matter if it goes on the eyelid at this point because we're going to clean all of that up, but I just want to create like my initial shape. And then I'm going to start to taper it out slightly. I say slightly, and then I just, you know, really take it out there. So I always look straight up into my mirror and have a look at where the darkest shade is sitting at the moment. So I always like my crease to sit, my cut crease to sit slightly higher than my actual crease of the eye. So you want to go straight in the eye socket so that I can see the eyeshadow directly above my eye when I've got my eye open, and that's just to make sure that you can see the eyeshadows when your eye is open. Otherwise, if I did it any lower, when I open my eyes, you just wouldn't be able to see that definition right in the crease there. And I'm just going to continue to build it up until I'm pretty happy. If I feel like I want to bring this up any higher, I think I will, just slightly. And also, however long you want to take it out. I prefer not to take mine out like way past the brow, to be honest. So I'm going to just start leaving it there. Just going to leave it there. Okay. I'm going to take the same brush that we were using and just clean it off at the back of my hand. So you've almost got like a clean brush. and I'm just going to start blending out the edge. Make sure you're only focusing on blending out the edge. Smaller brushes for this are a lot better. It's just because you don't want to take the pigment away from the main sort of like focus of the eye. If you do feel like you're losing pigment, you can just blend it out and go back in and press pigment back in exactly where you need it. Also, I am barely touching the skin blending this out, because you don't want any like skipped skin while blending this out. What I like to do is I like to raise my brow because it gives me more area to work with, and also just make sure that your blend is a lot more smooth. Okay, so I'm going to leave it about there for now. You don't want to over blend it either, because there's still more eyeshadows that I want to put directly on top, and when I blend those two together it will be absolutely like seamless. So next I'm going to take the shade The Hype, and I'm going to take this on my Zoeva 231 brush. This is definitely an eyeshadow colour which I've never used before. So with this I'm going to go directly above where we put the previous colour, kind of focusing against the line that we were blending out. And again, I'm barely touching the skin while blending this out. You kind of see where I'm blending that, I'm losing some of the pigment of the shade Nuke. But we can always go back in. So for the last colour on the crease, I'm going to take the shade Ecstasy, and I'm going to take this on my Morphe M573 brush. So I've literally just coated the top of that, and that was like one touch on the eyeshadow. And then I'm going to lift my brow. I'm just going to go, trying not to get too close to the actual brow bone, and start blending that out. Again, I'm barely touching the skin. And you can see how good this eyeshadow is. I barely touched the skin and it's just gone on so pigmented. I haven't had to constantly layer, I haven't had to constantly go back and forth with it. So now I'm gonna again clean off that big brush, the big brush that I was using, and I'm just gonna start blending out all the edges. I'm still going pretty soft against my eyelid, however I'm just being a little bit more sort of like a circular motion, a little bit more rough, blending all of these out. So now I'm going and taking that same brush which I used with Nuke, and I'm gonna just add a little bit more pigment exactly where I needed it. So you can see here it needs a little bit more blending, so we're just gonna go back in that little area there. I'm going to leave it about there. Yes, fabulous. Yes. Before cutting the crease, I want to clean up the eyelid area, and that's just to make sure that the concealer that I'm going to use, or the Plouise base that I'm going to use to cut the crease, isn't going to mix in with the green and then turn green. You want it to be like really crisp and clean. So I've just put a little bit of micellar water, and I always start off a little bit lower using small strokes. If your Q-tip is too wet, press it up against the back of your hand and get rid of any excess like micellar water, because you don't want it to run and ruin all that hard work that you've put in. So while I'm doing this, I like to look down on my mirror and stretch my eyebrow. And also, this does not have to be perfect, because you are going to go back in with that concealer, but if you don't do this, like, this step helps you so much along the way. As you can see, it's not 100% neat, but it gives me like a good base to work with. So at this point I'm going to take my Plouise base and my favourite cut crease brush, which you all know is a paintbrush, which I just cut to make smaller. And I'm going to coat both sides with the Plouise base to make my brush as sharp as possible. That's not very sharp. Okay, let's just sharpen that up a bit more. There you go, as sharp as possible. Okay. So to cut my crease, I like to tilt my head back, look down in the mirror so you can see clearly exactly what you're doing. I'm just going to adjust my mirror a little bit here. And then we're going to do a combination of patting and sliding motions. The patting motion will make sure that it doesn't pick up any other eyeshadows from underneath, and to make sure that you get the most coverage out of your base. And the sliding motion will make sure that you get a really smooth line. I should stop talking. Just like that. I've cut the main shape of the crease, but I do want to take it up a bit higher. Bearing in mind we will have a white liner on top. This is what I mean by mixing the base mixing in with the eyeshadow. Luckily we're going to put an eyeshadow on top of this, but usually I would say focus a little bit more on cleaning it up. It's just because I went a little bit higher than where I actually cleaned up. Okay, so I am pretty happy with that shape, but if I feel like I want to adjust it slightly, you can always go back in. Yes. So for the lid, she kind of has like a darker to lighter thing going on, which I think is really cool. So we're going to try and recreate that. To make the lid more prominent, I'm going to be purely using shimmers on the lid. So the first shade I'm going to take is Cargo. And I'm going to take something like a really small brush and I'm going to press and slide that onto the lid. Trying not to ruin the cut crease, and that's why I'm going in with such a small but rounded brush. And I'm just going to take it about there. I don't want to bring it too much in because I still want to keep the eye looking fairly light. Just going to slide the edge a little bit just to almost blend it in. Just like that. I'm going to use the same brush and blend that into the shade Peppermint. This is an absolutely stunning eyeshadow. Again, just stretching your brow so that you can get right into the edge of that cut crease. I'm going to stop about right there. And I'm just going to go back and blend these together. So I'm actually going to take the shade Gold Luxe, which is the highlighter, but I'm going to use that as an eyeshadow with a flat brush. As a topper, I'm just going to go in with this absolutely beautiful liquid eyeshadow, and this is in the shade Mermaid on Land. It is from inc.redible. I love these. So I'm not taking too much, but this is gonna, okay, I lied, I picked up a lot. This is really gonna help make the eye look a lot more 3D because it has that gorgeous iridescent gold to it. Next, I'm going to take my NYX Professional Makeup White Liquid Liner, and I'm going to try and create a really sharp wing against the cut crease, and this is really going to help it stand out. Okay, so let's all say our prayers. I can already feel this going bad because I don't feel very stable. Oh no. So you can tell this is very difficult to do on camera, so I'm just gonna go off camera and yep, fix it before I keep ruining it. Oh, the frustration. Okay, so I'm just gonna clean up this edge over here and then put on some foundation, and I will be right back. I am back. I might have done a little bit more than just my face. I ended up doing a wing liner off camera using the NYX liquid liner. I actually started off with a different liquid liner and it went on so badly that I had to go over it with a NYX liquid liner. It's not as clean as I'd want it, but it'll do the job. And then I just blended in a little bit of black eyeshadow under the lash line and just popped on some mascara. I put some of the eyeshadow topper on the inner corner as well to give it a little bit of sparkle. Yes. So I'll do centre to centre, outer edge, oh dear, and then inner corner, and then I just kind of readjust them a little bit, and then I use the back of my tweezers to press the lash line down.